Hi. So today was my first day of college, and I just had one class. I had my observational drawing class. We didn't do much because it was the first day, and it was just kind of like a getting to know the class and everything. But there were some materials that I needed to get, so I got them after class. I left them in my car though. I don't feel like getting them. And the teacher seemed really nice. She was very helpful. I asked a couple questions. She helped me out a lot. She seemed very chill. And one of the people who sat next to me at one of the tables was very familiar. Like, I think she may have gone to my high school, but like the grade above me. I'm not sure. But she was very familiar. Yeah, that's all right now. I was like so nervous, and it wasn't even that like huge of a deal. But yeah, tomorrow I have another class also at the same time, but it's just one class again. I need to find things that I can do that don't cost money. I went on a walk today to get exercise. Maybe when I get my new binder that's bigger, because I have one binder that fits me correctly. But I accidentally ordered one too small and one the right size, and I need to return the too small one, so then I can get the one that's a size bigger, and then I can wear that, and I can maybe like go to the gym a little bit. Because I know you're supposed to wear a binder like sized up if you want to if you want to go to the gym. And I think I want to start working out. Yeah. And I think I could have, because I need to figure out things that I can fill my day with without being too overwhelmed. But then again, once I get homework, I might have more things to do. But it's like I have one class, and then it's like I didn't have much else to do today. So yeah. I've just been watching Sam and Colby all day. I'm gonna finish this video I'm watching and then go downstairs and get some dinner, and then I'll be back. And if I think about something to yap about, then I'll yap about it. Okay, I'm back with food. Okay, I have a couple little rants that I want to talk about. I posted one of the things I'm gonna rant about. I posted on TikTok, but like no one watched. Like it got no views whatsoever, and I wouldn't be surprised if there is a reason behind that. I can't. I'm eating nochi. I think that's how you pronounce it. There's like a silent G in front of it. But it's so difficult to get the thing off. Anyway, I'm just gonna rant while I'm eating, I guess. So yeah, if you don't like seeing or hearing someone chewing, then don't watch. I'll take this trash down later when I bring my fork down to the dishwasher. What was I gonna say? Yeah, okay. My first little rant thing is I've seen this like uptick in people just comparing like everything to Israel. Like they'll see something they don't like and just say, like, because they don't like it, say it's spiritually Israel or something like that. Or like people are saying weird stuff like that about Taylor Swift's wedding. They're like, it's so Israel coded. Huh? And it just feels really like, it doesn't feel that way. It is that way. It's just like really insensitive and like making light of a very, very like serious like event that's happening in our world. Like it's literally genocide happening. And it's like, yeah, Taylor Swift being the billionaire she is and like shutting down an entire like block or whatever she did for her wedding was kind of like, yeah, that sucks, especially because there are people who are a lot less fortunate than her who maybe have to get places and blah, blah, blah. But it's not comparable to genocide. Or, like, people saying that Somber's music is spiritually Israel. Like, he's not spiritually Israel, he just sucks. He's not... His music being bad is not comparable to genocide. Like, you need to, like, make a different comparison of something that's less, heavy of a situation, but maybe still sucks. I don't know. What's, like, something that we all agree objectively sucks. And then make that comparison instead of something that it is genuinely, like, affecting other people's lives. I don't know. It just seems like really, like, I don't know. It just shows that people are so desensitized to violence. I haven't even been eating my food. It just kind of shows that people are so desensitized to violence nowadays that they're willing to make the comparison of death and genocide to something that's, like, nowhere close to comparable, like, completely different levels. Okay, and then the other topic I was gonna rant about, I had another one earlier, but I kind of forgot it. I hope I remember it eventually. I can include it in a video. But, the other topic is, I see so much hate for Leah Jeffries for playing Annabeth. And it's so weird to me. And then people are hating on her specifically and, like, sending her, like, death threats because she's not book accurate, when we all know that they're just using that as an excuse to be racist. But it's like they're mad at her as if she's the one who made the casting decision. Like, no, Rick Riordan and the directors of the show are the ones who made the decision. She just happened to be good enough of an actor to play Annabeth well. And, I see a lot more hate for the characters, the female actors who play characters and are, like, a different race than the characters are in the book, than I do for, like, male characters. But also, like, I don't see half as many people mad to the same degree about Walker Scobell not being book accurate. Like, he's blonde in the show and he has blue eyes, when in the book he's supposed to be brown haired and have green eyes. But he's not book accurate in the show, but he still does a good job, a good portrayal of Percy. And, like, with some characters, like with Leo Valdez or with Piper McLean, like, their race is very important to their character. It is part of their struggle or whatever. But with Annabeth, it really isn't that important. And, like, yeah, you could argue that her being blonde is important because she struggles with the fact that she's very intelligent, but people don't take her seriously because of the dumb blonde stereotype. But that still works for her being black. Like, because of the stereotypes that have been kind of so ingrained in society that black people are just less intelligent than white people. Annabeth is such an intelligent person. She's so analytical and very smart in a way that very much defies those stereotypes of black people. And it's not like those stereotypes are true, obviously. I mean, there are just as many dumb white people as there are dumb black people, but nobody she won't get taken as seriously because of those stereotypes. And it may even further that struggle that she deals with, because at the end of the day, a white blonde girl is going to get treated better and taken more seriously than a black woman will. So, like, even with her character arc in mind and the fact that, you know, her being intelligent but she doesn't get taken seriously because of her appearance, that still works. Like, for her, like, even with a race change. Like, I don't know. I feel like I'm sure there's, like, maybe there's a story where a character being white is a very important part of their story. I mean, there was, what's it called? Secret Life of Bees. The main character not being white, I forget her name, wouldn't make sense for her story because then her whole character arc of having to rethink her personal biases and prejudices and unlearning the racism that she's been taught her whole life wouldn't be as impactful if she wasn't white. So that, in that story, it wouldn't make sense to change her race. But with Percy Jackson, it doesn't matter about any of the character, like any of the characters who were originally white in the books. It doesn't change their story. If anything, it can make their story more impactful for a lot of people to see someone they can see themselves in. I mean, that's why representation is so important in media. And because, well, one, people can see themselves in a character who makes them feel empowered. Like, for me, I see Charlotte Weber, one of my favorite spider people, and she has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome just like me. But she's a spider person. And sometimes I feel like I can't do anything. I mean, in some ways I can't because Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is very disabling. But Charlotte, she recognizes her disability and she's able to find workarounds for it. Like, she uses her crutches as a web shooter, and her wheelchair has like 8 legs instead of wheels to be like a spider, and she can climb on walls with it, and that's so cool. And it makes me feel empowered. And so that can be the same with any other minority being represented in media, is seeing someone who is a minority, who maybe is, and that minority is often restricted in whatever way. Like, you know, with black people, they often don't get the same opportunities as white people do because, you know, racism in jobs and social aspects of life in school and just the justice system being so, like, screwed over, you know. But seeing a character who kind of is able to exist despite that can be so empowering. And so having a character like Annabeth is such a great thing for like young black kids who want to be able to see themselves in media. And like, another reason why representation is very important is because of the way other people see it. You know, if you have a character who maybe is in a marginalized community, like Annabeth, that is heavily stereotyped, like Annabeth, TV show Annabeth specifically, you know, a heavily stereotyped community, but then seeing a character from that heavily stereotyped community be nothing like that stereotype can help other people, like, oh, what's the word, like, destigmatize that to other people, and it can help them reconsider their biases, if that makes sense. Like, with all the Percy Jackson characters having ADHD and dyslexia in the first place is so, especially when the books were written in the early 2000s, that was super revolutionary. But seeing a character like Percy Jackson that so many people, like, loved and looked up to, having ADHD and dyslexia, helped other people recognize that maybe it isn't something to have so many like rude and harmful stereotypes about. And that can be the same for any minority. And sorry, I need to eat. I lost my train of thought. But ooh, I lost my train of thought, and that's so irritating. But also, I feel like a lot of the time, like, for some reason, white people act like they're not allowed to relate to a black person in media because they're a different race. And that doesn't make sense to me at all. Like, the race isn't the only, like, thing about them. Just like a lot of, like, straight people feel like they're not allowed to relate to queer people in media because they're queer. And it's like, that's not the only thing about them. Like, there are ways that I relate to Annabeth. Like, I don't know, it's just weird to me. Like, you don't need, like, as white people, we have plenty of characters that are white that we can see ourselves in. But we're also allowed to see ourselves in a character of a different race, just not in the racial aspect. But, like, with Leo Valdez, I relate to him a lot because he described himself as, like, the seventh wheel. You know, he watched all his friends fall in love and get into relationships. But he still wasn't, and he kind of felt like he was falling behind in a way. And that's something I relate to a lot. And guess what? It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that he is Latino. Like, I don't know, white people, you're allowed to relate to, like, people of color. That's, like, it's not illegal. You don't need a white character in a piece of media to be able to enjoy it or connect with it. That's so weird. Like, or you don't need a straight person in a piece of media to be able to connect with it. Like, straight people have plenty of media with straight couples. That having one gay couple isn't going to take anything away from you. It's just like how white people have plenty of white characters that they can relate to. Having one black character or one character of color of any other race is not going to take anything away from you. It's like, it's not a pie. It's not like if someone takes a piece of the pie, then you have less pie for yourself. That's not how it works. It just like, nothing's getting taken away from you for other people to have something. I hope that rant made sense. I'm, like, always nervous that when I'm talking about, like, a lot of stuff with, like, that have to do with, like, racism and stuff, I feel like I'm, like, always really, really worried that I, like, sound very ignorant. Because I don't have a lot of people that I know in real life who can, like, check me on these things, unfortunately. So most of, like, where this comes from is just online. And I just hope that I'm actually making sense and I don't sound uneducated or ignorant. And if I do, please correct me, like, in any way. But yeah, that's my rants that I was thinking of right now. Sorry, also, when I mention, like, queer people, oftentimes, like, while talking about, like, racism and stuff, that's not me trying to, like, compare the two, because I know, like, discrimination against queer people and discrimination against black people is very different. I can pick out similarities, but I know that they're still different because you can't see queerness, but you can see someone's race. And so I can hide that I'm queer, but a Black person can't hide that they're Black. And so how we experience things is going to be very different. The thing is, it's easier for me to connect or like understand other people's experiences when I find an experience of my own to relate it to, if that makes any sense. And like, I think it's also really dumb to be a part of a minority and then be hateful towards another minority. Like, being queer and then being racist or ableist or misogynistic is so stupid, yet somehow it happens. But it's like, all of these things can be so, like, interconnected. Because, like queer people being transphobic is so stupid to me. We're in your community, bro. Okay, I thought I heard something. Or, like, it's just so dumb to me because it's like, if you're gonna be a feminist, you're not allowed to be racist because Black women are affected by misogyny as much, if not more than you, as a white person. Because Black women are often, like, masculinized by society because in Western culture, peak femininity is having, like, pale, fair skin and being blonde. And while Black people don't have pale skin and aren't typically blonde, I mean, there are Black people who are blonde, but typically they're not. And so they are seen as more masculine, even though they're not, because they're women. And so they are affected by misogyny. And not only that, but a lot of the time, the transphobic rhetoric that is perpetuated by a lot of TERFs can affect Black women too, because of the fact that Western culture sees them as more masculine. And so Black women are harmed by transphobia a lot of the time because of the way our society views femininity and race. And then, obviously, then queer people often struggle with, like, queer people are very affected by misogyny, no matter what flavor of queer you are. I mean, gay men get, like, made fun of for being too feminine or what have you, and that's because of the patriarchal standards that men have to be this certain way, so then when they aren't, they're feminine, and feminine equal bad. And so they are still affected by the patriarchy and by misogyny. And like, lesbians are oftentimes, like, just not taken seriously because women oftentimes get questioned, like, when they're, like, in their own, like, sense of self. Like, when a woman has a strong sense of self and a strong identity, she's oftentimes heavily questioned and mistrusted and not given the liberty to really have that sense of self. So when a woman is allowed, has that freedom and, is allowed to be, lesbian or whatever, that doesn't get taken seriously, and those relationships are just oftentimes devalued and sexualized. And then, like, with trans people, there's, like, the whole trans misogyny thing, which is, a lot of it has to do with they're actually secretly predators who are just trying to transition so they can get into women's bathrooms and peep at women. Guess what? No predator is going to take that much effort to creep on women. Okay? There's not an invisible force stopping you from entering the women's restroom as a man. being, like, no one's ever going to truly go out of their way to do that. Like, and then also, because of that whole, like, transmisogyny rhetoric, people often view Black people as very dangerous. And not exactly the same way, but in very oftentimes a similar way that they do trans women, of, like, they're dangerous and they're gonna hurt you and they're creeps and whatnot. And because Black women are seen as more masculine to white culture or Western culture, they have this transmisogynistic rhetoric also pushed onto them. And then with trans men, because they're born female, like I said, like, women are oftentimes, like, not taken seriously in their sense of self, in their identity, or whatever. And yes, I know that trans men are men, but transphobic people don't see them as that. And so they, having that identity as men, kind of freaks people out in a similar way to it is with, like, lesbians or whatever. And it's very weird because, like, the whole rhetoric is, like, with trans women, it's, oh, they're dangerous and they're coming for your children and they're trying to creep on you. But with trans men, it's like, oh, these helpless little girls, they're being groomed into thinking that they're trans when they're not. And it's just such a demeaning thing, because that also shows how they view women, not just trans men, but they view women as helpless and as, like, mindless and as if they can't be themselves. But then with Black trans men, they kind of have this issue where a lot of other, like, white trans men will kind of say they pass when they don't actually, because of the whole Black women being masculinized by white society. And because of that, they are kind of viewed as dangerous in a similar way that Black men are, despite not passing well. But then to their, like, families, they're not, like, they're kind of being lied to about, oh, you pass well. And it's like, I don't know, I'm not sure I'm wording it in a way that makes sense. But honestly, everything, like homophobia, racism, misogyny, and transphobia, all of it circles back to the patriarchy in some way. So to end all of these forms, and even ableism, because disabled people are either told that they're lying or get infantilized. That's, like, the main two. But it's like, and also capitalism is definitely a big part of it, because it's like, you're seen as less worthy and less important to society if you can't contribute to capitalism in any way. And so a disabled person who cannot work is seen as less important to society because of their lack of contribution to capitalism. But then, because they're disabled in whatever way, they're kind of devalued, and like, no matter what way you're, like, and with autistic men, for example, they're kind of, specifically white autistic men, they're kind of babied, and, oh, he didn't know any better. And when he actually does something wrong, it's kind of a similar thing to Boys Will Be Boys, but you have something to you have a better excuse to it. But then women with autism are just like, you don't have it. You don't have it. And then, Black people also get like, oh, you don't have it. And they're when if they are believed that they have autism, they're just like, oh, now you're going to creep on everyone. Because there's, for some reason, that stereotype that autistic people don't understand social cues to the point that they just become like creeps and perverts. And it's like, so even then, that leads to the patriarchy harming people. So I think if we wanted, dismantle all these forms of prejudice or discrimination, the patriarchy is where we need to, start. We dismantle the patriarchy, then we gotta work through everything else, Like, white women need to realize that, yes, they are very oppressed. Yes, women are oppressed, okay? They don't get the same opportunities as men and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, the fact that they're white is going to put them in a much more privileged position than even a black man. Because, there have been, I don't have a solid concrete source for this. This is just something that I remember hearing about once. So I can't provide a solid concrete source for this. But I have heard of an instance where a white woman used the whole fact that she's just an innocent, helpless woman to frame a black man for harming her. And because she's white, she got taken seriously first, despite the black man being a man. Because the patriarchy harms men too, and so men are viewed as they don't know boundaries. They can't control themselves. But then that's especially heavily pushed onto black men of they're dangerous and they're violent and they're perverts. And when black people were first being depicted in media, they were very much depicted as animalistic and as dangerous, and I see a very similar, obviously, again, I know it's not exactly the same, but I see a very similar rhetoric be pushed about queer people as it is about black people. Of they're dangerous, they're perverts, they're not safe around your kids. I see that directed towards both, towards the queer community, the black community, and the disabled community a lot of the time. And it's really crazy to me, that perpetuated towards multiple different minority groups. But because I'm able to make that connection, I recognize, me and all these other minorities have a common, enemy. And instead of it being some sort of, oppression Olympics where it's oh, but I'm both queer and disabled, and I was born female, and I'm trans. I can just be oh, wow. The same people who hate me also hate you. We should work together to build a world that is more accepting for both of us. And I think more people need to have that mentality, especially more white people need to have that mentality towards black people and other people of color, where the people who, because bigots are not bigoted in just one way. Usually they're, homophobic and racist and misogynistic. But we need to recognize that the people who hate us as queer people also hate people of color. And we have someone, we need to be able to be a community with all the minorities. I feel like I'm just talking in circles. I hope what I'm saying makes sense and doesn't come off as ignorant. I keep saying that, and I'm really sorry if it does. And if I'm using language that I shouldn't be using, please correct me in any way, okay? But yeah, I think I'm hoping what I say makes sense, but it's just this racism and stuff has never made sense to me, in the sense that I can make connections from their experiences towards my experiences and recognize that the same people who perpetuate discrimination and prejudice and hatred towards them are oftentimes the same people who perpetuate that towards me for being trans and disabled and queer. And so, like, I want to help them as much as me because, there are queer people who are Black or who are people of color. There are disabled people who are of color. You're not just one minority and one minority only, Like, so I want to be able to, I know if I ever want to make the world better, if I want to bring about acceptance for the minorities I am, and I also have to fight for the other minorities that I may not be a part of, but that are affected in a similar way to me. And I also recognize that the same government that is very racist, Donald Trump and all of them, they're very racist. They're also very transphobic. And I recognize that we are both being affected by laws that are being put into place to give us less of a voice and to harm us and to strip us of our self and to erase us. Trans people have so many laws that are being put in place that harms them. And because of those laws that harms trans people, it also harms cis people and oftentimes cis people of color. But other than that, but people, especially Black people, all this gerrymandering that's happening, that's harming them, and these laws that are making it harder for their voices to be heard. I recognize that it's the same government that's trying to hurt both groups. And we have to work together and help each other if we ever want to fix any of the issues in the world. I hope that makes sense. I feel like I'm just yapping and I sound dumb. Two dumbasses telling each other exactly, except it's just me and the voices in my head. But yeah. Obviously I don't want to say that I experience, I've never had someone call me a slur in public. And I know I dress very visibly queer. I wear my queerness on my sleeve. I mean, literally, I have pins and patches of me being aroace and me being trans. And both of those identities are even ridiculed by members of the queer community. But, even then, the first thing that anyone's going to see about me is the fact that I'm white. And that gives me more privilege because of that. In no way am I comparing. In no way am I saying that my experiences of transphobia and queerphobia is similar to Black people. Because Black people, they experience it socially, when they leave the house. They'll experience racism in the workplace, in school, by local authorities, in the justice system, by the government. For me, it's in my personal life. That's where I experience it the most. Yes, I do. There is a lot of government trying to harm trans people, but that doesn't directly affect me in the same way. And I don't walk out of the house and have to worry that someone's going to harm me because I'm trans, because they're not going to know that unless they know me. Whereas people of color, oftentimes that's such a huge fear of them that they're worried that when they walk out of their house, they could be harmed for being a person of color. Because that is, you know that about someone even if you don't know them personally. And I recognize that our experiences are not the same. And I'm not saying that my experiences aren't as bad or that they're it's just different. because the worst, the stuff I experience is from people from my family who don't accept me. I mean, I guess you could have a family that doesn't accept you for being a person of color if you're like a foster person or something. But for the most part, you know what I mean. Like, usually it's from the outside world, and that can ramp up more and be more dangerous because, yeah, my family doesn't accept me for being trans, but they still see me as their family, just not as me, who I personally am. It's more of a personal struggle. For them, it's like a social thing. Like, I feel like I'm just repeating myself. I hope it makes sense. I hope that rambling makes sense. But, yeah. And it's, like, really weird to me. The way, like, countries in Africa, for some reason, people, not just in America, but in predominantly white countries, seem to have it in their mind that Africa itself is a country, which is so dumb. So then they just decide every African person ever is poor. Like, yeah, there are poor countries there, but there are also very wealthy countries. It's an entire continent. All the countries are different. But I feel like that rhetoric comes from kind of like a savior complex kind of idea of like well, white countries, that rhetoric is kind of very racist because they just assume everyone in these countries where they're all, black or darker skin, they're poor, blah blah blah. Like, that's comes from a very racist idea. But then these people will be like, oh, I'm gonna help these kids in Africa, and they kind of want to seem like these knight in shining armor type thing, if that makes sense. And it's like, yeah, there are people in Africa who are struggling and who need to be helped, but be specific about where in Africa, and there are poor countries in Europe and poor countries in the Americas and poor countries in Asia, but they don't get the same kind of white knight thing. Is that the right term, white knight? I feel like I've heard that used in that specific context, but it's really weird. Yeah. There was another thing I was going to say after this. I forget. I don't remember. If I remember later, I'll just talk about it in another video. I know I've said this a billion times, but I really hope nothing I said came off as ignorant or uneducated. If it did, I'm very, very open to correction. Because I fully mean well, and I want to be educated. I want to be knowledgeable in these subjects, and if there's any language that I use incorrectly, or if I say anything that could be harmful or perpetuate stereotypes, please let me know so that I can be more mindful in the future. But yeah, that's all for today. I just want to be the best person I can be, and that includes being anti-discrimination, both anti-racism and in every other aspect too. So yeah, that's all I have to talk about for today, but yeah, bye for now. Tomorrow, I'm gonna watch a movie on my computer after class, I think. I'm deciding if I want to watch I Saw the TV Glow, Wishing You All the Best, or rewatch the Backrooms. I'm not sure, but I'll talk about it in my next little video. So yeah, bye. Thanks for listening, and again, I'm gonna put my Ko-Fi link in the description. Awesome.